YouTube, it's Mandy. Sorry for the bad lighting. I filmed this video earlier and I lost some of the footage, so I'm having to reshoot it. And it's really dark outside, so I'm having to use some bad lights that cast a pretty nasty shadow. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking to you about breastfeeding. Some people don't know that there's more than one way to do it, so in this video I'm going to discuss exclusive pumping, exclusive nursing, and using a combination of both. I've done both, and I feel that I have a really good understanding of each, and that I can offer some insight on both forms of breastfeeding. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer before I start: all of the views in this video are my opinion, and they're solely based on my experience with breastfeeding. Everybody's experience is different, so if yours isn't exactly like mine, that is completely okay, and it's to be expected. So let's start with exclusive nursing. Now, when I talk about exclusive nursing, I'm talking about the delivery of milk to the baby solely from nursing. I'm not talking about the exclusion of solid food or anything like that. I'm only talking about the way that baby receives milk, which would be directly from the breast. So far, my experience with exclusive nursing has been pretty good. I've quite enjoyed it. My daughter is a very strong nurser. She's still very fond of nursing. I think it's a great experience for mother and child, and I completely understand that some people can't do it, and that's perfectly alright. Exclusive nursing is what I've done the second time around, which is this time now, and I'm still currently nursing. I've really enjoyed the experience so far, and I chose to exclusively nurse this time, not only based on my choice. I really didn't want to pump this time, so I was nursing, and I was so afraid of pumping this time that I went too long, and my daughter now will not take milk from a bottle or a cup or anything like that, so we're still exclusively nursing. Nursing is the only way that she receives milk. Here are some of the pros and cons of exclusive nursing. Let's start with the pros. Number one being that you save money. You don't have to pay for formula, which can get costly. There's no cost for bottles or sterilizers or warmers or any other bottle feeding equipment that you may need. Number two, extra cuddle time with baby. There is nothing better than cuddling with your little baby, especially when they're newborns and they just snuggle right up to you. It is one of the best feelings in the world, and who doesn't want a little more of that? Number three is a strong bond. And now I want to be very careful in the way that I word this, because I don't want to upset anybody, and I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea, because no matter how your child is fed, you will love them just the same. This bond I'm talking about is solely a bond that's experienced during the nursing process. It's a different kind of connection with your child. It's a very deep, personal experience. There's a certain trust involved when it comes to nursing, because you're putting a child onto your breast, and we're often taught that breasts are a very private thing, and breastfeeding can be a very personal experience for some people, and allowing that process to happen, it does create a very, very strong bond between mother and child. And I really hope people understand that I'm not saying that if you nurse your child, you love them more than any other child, because that's not the case. That's not the case at all. It's just a different experience than that, at least that I had in bottle feeding. But I love my son absolutely to death, just as much as I love my daughter. Now, I have a few pros that are definitely personal to me, and I don't know that this would be exactly what you would experience, but for me, nursing has been far more comfortable for a majority of the process. I don't feel much now other than letdowns. Like, I know she's nursing, but I don't necessarily feel that there's anything going on. Another one is that my body responds so much better to nursing than it does to pumping. I get stronger letdowns, I get quicker letdowns, I have a much better milk supply, and I've had no clogs. It has been a great experience for both myself and for my daughter. Now I'm going to move on to a few of the cons of nursing exclusively. Number one being that no one else can feed baby. That means that you feed baby and only you, even at night, and it can cause a lot of problems with sleep deprivation. And it's much, much harder to get personal time, which is okay. For some people, that is perfectly all right. For others, they struggle with that. It's just a difference of opinion. The next con would be that it's more painful in the beginning. The initial period of learning the proper latch and adjustment and just having your nipples toughen up so that you can withstand the feedings. And that baby controls the strength of the suction, whereas if you had a pump, you can adjust it and you can control the suction to what's comfortable for you. When it comes to nursing, baby's behind the wheel and the baby controls what's going on. Another big con, if you're not comfortable feeding in public, would be that you have to schedule all of your outings around the feedings. In the beginning, you're feeding baby at least every 2 hours, so that means you have 2 hours from the time you get out the door to the time you have to get back, or else that outing can be pretty miserable for both mama and baby. The last one would be that you could have a harder time transitioning to a cup from the breast. Baby's not used to a plastic spout or a nipple, so when you're switching over to a sippy cup, even though it's different than a bottle, sometimes babies, they just won't like it. So that pretty much covers exclusive nursing. Now onto exclusive pumping. When I talk about exclusive pumping, I'm talking about baby being fed exclusively with pumped milk with no nursing involved whatsoever. Just breast milk from a bottle. I made the decision to exclusively pump when I had my son, partly due to a lack of knowledge and understanding, but I found comfort in the pump in the beginning, and after a while my son just wouldn't take the breast anymore, so for me it was a very important thing for my son to have breast milk. There's nothing wrong with formula, but I really wanted him to have breast milk as long as he could, so I chose to exclusively pump for an entire year, and I did just that. So I'll start talking about some of the pros of exclusive pumping. Number one being that feedings can be shared. They can be shared at any moment during the night, which is wonderful because you're not the only one losing sleep, and you can have date night with hubby because someone can babysit and feed baby bottle, and other people around you get the bonding experience during the feed, which is also great. If you have extra milk after you're done pumping, then you can store it away for a backup supply in case you get sick, or in case maybe you want to wean early off the pump but you still want to have breast milk for baby after that. If you have a lot of extra, who knows, maybe you could wean far before and baby still gets those benefits. You can also use some of that extra milk to put into baby's foods, whether you're mixing it in with a cereal if you're using it, or whether you want to cook it into, say, some scrambled eggs or something like that. Breast milk has many benefits. That would be a whole other video, but you could use some of your express milk for that. A very personal one for me that I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this part of the video is that in the beginning, pumping was a lot more comfortable for me. I could control the suction. It was bliss compared to the initial latching stages of breastfeeding for me. My son had a very, very powerful latch. The nurses in the hospital commented on it. They couldn't believe how strong his latch was, and the pump was just a lot gentler. Now I'm going to move on to the cons of exclusive pumping. Number one being that you require a lot of extra equipment. You require the bottles, the sterilizers, and everything that you would need for bottle feeding formula, as well as the cost of a pump. Whether you're renting or purchasing, it can be costly. The next would be that pumping is time consuming. Now, it's different for everyone, the amount of time it takes them to empty. Some people can empty in 5 minutes, some people it takes a lot longer. Myself personally, it took me an hour and a half to empty. And by empty, I mean to get out as much as I could. So in the beginning stages, when I had to make sure I had enough milk for baby to eat every 2 hours, I would have to pump for an hour and a half, and I would have half an hour between that pumping session and the next, because that was the 2-hour point, and that's what I needed to do to have enough milk for my son. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of devotion, but for me it was totally worth it. Another con would be the cleaning and sterilizing. It is constant. Not only are you cleaning and sterilizing bottles, but you're cleaning and sterilizing pump parts and all of that. A little tip for some of you, if you don't know, you can put the flange in a plastic bag and store it in the fridge for a few days and it'll still be okay. You can use it over and over again, but just make sure you don't use it too often because you don't want the milk to get contaminated. Next one would be having to occupy baby while you're pumping. If your baby doesn't feed while you're pumping, then you need to find something else for baby to do. If you're lucky, baby will go in a playpen and play on their own and be happy. But some babies aren't as happy, so you have to kind of find a balance and find something that makes baby happy while you're doing your pumping session. And lastly, over time, for me, it got quite uncomfortable. It's very important to ensure you have the right size flange, and sometimes you have to change flanges along the way. So if you find that you're getting sores or tearing or chafing or something like that, maybe it's time to upsize your flange or try a different brand. The next one would be during outings that you have to carry around coolers, warmers, and bottles. This can get very heavy. I used to have to bring a small cooler with a few bottles in it, and then the warmers to warm it up on the go, and the bottles of the milk itself. And over time, the more baby eats, the heavier the bag gets. It's a lot of bulk, it's a lot of weight. So if you're just carrying around a diaper bag, so be prepared to carry around a lot of weight in that diaper bag. The last one I think that everyone can relate to would be the noise. Over time, that noise gets right in there and it starts to drive you crazy a little bit. A lot of people, including myself, agree that over time that pump starts to talk to you. If you haven't heard what a pump sounds like, it sounds like this. Now imagine that over and over again every day for half an hour at a time. It can get to you. A very personal one to me is that my body doesn't respond well to pumping. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it took me forever to empty, or to finish, I should say, because I never really emptied. It would take me an hour and a half to finish every single time, and I would get constant clogs, and those clogs led to low milk supply, and that required me to take medication to up my supply, and in upping my supply that caused more clogs. It was a vicious cycle, and the clogs were very, very painful, and they led to mastitis, which was one of the worst experiences of my life. I felt so sick. I could have sworn I was dying. It was horrible. So that covered both exclusive nursing and exclusive pumping on their own, but you don't have to choose just one. You can combine both of them to fit what best suits you and your lifestyle. You can nurse when you want and pump, so you have bottles for an extra freezer stash, or if you want someone else to feed baby, or even just to have on an outing with you if you're not comfortable with nursing in public. If you're going to do a combination of nursing and pumping, it's important that you introduce a bottle sooner than later, but you have to be careful and make sure your timing is right, because you can have nipple confusion happen and baby can choose one over the other, but that doesn't happen every time. You just need to make sure that you do your research and you have an understanding of what developmental stage your baby's in and what makes you comfortable. Now, just a little tidbit to give you a bit of an idea what people other than myself think. I did a poll on a forum of breastfeeding women, and out of 28 women, 19 preferred exclusive nursing, 1 preferred exclusive pumping, and 8 preferred a little mixture of nursing and pumping, including myself. Here's a few things to consider before you make your decision. How soon will you be returning to work? If you're going to be returning to work soon after you have baby, exclusive nursing may not be the right choice for you. It doesn't mean that you can't nurse baby, but depending on the type of job you do and where you work, you may need to pump so that baby has milk while you're at work. Another is how important you time is to you. And by you time, I'm talking about adult only time, whether it's personal time by yourself or a date night with your significant other, or even a girls' night out with your friends. That can be difficult to get when you're exclusively nursing, unless baby starts going long periods of time between feedings and you can go out during that time or at night. Now, I hope this video has been informative and maybe even helped some of you with your decisions on what type of breastfeeding you would like to do. I'd love to hear about your decisions and your experiences with breastfeeding, so leave that down below in the comments. See you in my next video. Happy feeding. Bye!